The crystalline spires of the Galactic Academy pierced the artificial atmosphere of Nexus Station like frozen lightning. Within its halls, the finest minds from across 12 star systems gathered to share knowledge and advance the collective understanding of technology. Today, however, the assembled delegates were not sharing, they were laughing. Commander Zexathari of the Vorthan Empire adjusted her neural crown, the bioluminescent tendrils flickering with amusement. "Tell me again," she said, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones of her species. "What did the humans call this revolutionary invention?" Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the presentation podium, her weathered hands gripping a small metal object. Around her, representatives from dozens of species whispered among themselves, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of mockery. The crystalline hegemony's ambassador made sharp musical notes that translated roughly to derisive laughter. The gaseous beings from the Nebula Collective pulsed with colors that clearly indicated skepticism. "A paperclip," Sarah repeated, her voice steady despite the ridicule. "It's called a paperclip." The laughter grew louder. Zexathari's assistant, a multi-tentacled creature from the deep current, gestured dismissively with 3 appendages. "Commander, the humans present a bent piece of metal as their contribution to the Academy's technological archive. Surely this is some form of primitive humor." Sarah had expected this reaction. Humanity had been the newest addition to the Galactic Federation, their technology deemed quaint and inefficient by the established powers. While other species wielded plasma fields and quantum manipulators, humans still used crude mechanical devices. Their ships were held together with what the galaxy considered barbarically simple engineering. "If I may demonstrate," Sarah said, raising her voice above the din. She pulled out a stack of papers, another human anachronism that had drawn snickers throughout the week, and showed how the paperclip held them together. Simple, reliable, and infinitely versatile. The hegemony's crystal being chimed in frequencies that hurt human ears. "We have molecular binding fields that can organize data crystals at the quantum level. Why would we need such crudeness?" Sarah smiled. "Because sometimes the simplest solution is the most elegant." She began to demonstrate. With careful manipulation, she straightened the paperclip and reformed it into a lockpick, then a small antenna, then a circuit connector. Each transformation drew more derisive comments from the assembled aliens. Primitive, inefficient, typical human ingenuity. The demonstration concluded to scattered applause that sounded more like polite dismissal than genuine appreciation. Sarah gathered her materials and left the stage as the next presenter, a being from the Quantum Collective who would demonstrate technology that could fold space-time, took her place. 3 hours later, alarms began shrieking throughout Nexus Station. The hegemony's flagship, the Crystalline Majesty, was in distress. Its quantum-level organizational systems had suffered a cascade failure during what should have been a routine departure. The ship, worth more than the gross domestic product of several star systems, was now tumbling helplessly through space. In the Academy's Emergency Response Center, Commander Zexathari's bioluminescent crown flickered with stress patterns. "Status report," she demanded. "The Majesty's quantum binding fields are in complete disarray," reported her aide. "The failure originated in their primary data crystal matrix. Something disrupted the molecular organizational structure." "How is that possible? The hegemony's technology is flawless." "Unknown, Commander. The disruption appears to have been caused by metallic debris." Zexathari's crown dimmed. "Debris?" On the view screen, they watched as hegemony rescue vessels struggled to dock with the tumbling flagship. Their advanced guidance systems, dependent on quantum field harmonics, couldn't compensate for the chaotic resonance patterns coming from their own ship. "Commander," came a voice from behind them. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the doorway, having rushed from her quarters when the alarm sounded. "I might be able to help." "Dr. Chen, this is hardly the time for more human simplicity." "That's exactly what you need." Sarah moved to the communications console. "Can you patch me through?" "To the Majesty?" Zexathari's crown brightened with skepticism. but desperation overruled pride. "Do it!" Sarah's voice crackled through to the flagship. "Captain Velthara, this is Dr. Chen from the human delegation. What's your power status?" The crystalline being's response came in harmonics of frustration. "Dr. Chen, our quantum systems are completely disrupted. We're operating on emergency bioluminescent backup only." "Perfect. I need you to find any simple metallic objects on your ship. Something malleable. Wire, small tools, anything. We have maintenance filaments, crystalline but with metallic cores." "That'll work. Now listen carefully." For the next 20 minutes, Sarah walked the hegemony crew through a series of seemingly impossible repairs. Using nothing but bent metal filaments and basic mechanical principles, they created makeshift connections that bypassed their quantum systems entirely. Simple metallic loops became antenna arrays. Twisted wire formed circuit bridges. Bent filaments created manual control linkages. One by one, the ship's systems came online, not through quantum fields or molecular manipulation, but through the crude mechanical ingenuity that the galaxy had mocked just hours before. The crystalline majesty stabilized its tumble and began limping back to Nexus Station under manual control. In the emergency center, the silence was profound. "How?" Zexathari asked finally. Sarah held up another paperclip. "Sometimes the most advanced systems fail because they're too complex. Too many dependencies. Too many failure points." She began bending the clip into a new shape. "But something simple? Something that works on basic physical principles? That's robust. That's reliable." The commander stared at the small metal object. "But surely our technology is superior." "Your technology is impressive," Sarah agreed. "But complexity isn't always better. When your quantum fields failed, they took everything with them. But this?" She held up the reformed paperclip. "This works in vacuum, in radiation, in magnetic fields. It works when the power's out and the computers are down. It works when everything else fails." Over the following weeks, the story spread throughout the Galactic Federation. The mighty hegemony flagship saved by bent wire and human ingenuity. Gradually, other species began requesting consultations on their backup systems. They wanted to understand these simple, robust solutions that could function when their advanced technology failed. Human engineers found themselves in unprecedented demand, not for their ability to create the most sophisticated devices, but for their talent in making things that simply worked. The paperclip was inducted into the Academy's Hall of Technological Achievement, the first primitive tool to receive the honor. And in the accompanying plaque, the Academy's scribes included a new principle that would revolutionize galactic engineering. Elegance is not the absence of simplicity, but the presence of function. Dr. Sarah Chen kept the paperclip from her presentation. Sometimes, when young human engineers visited her laboratory, she would show them the small metal object and tell them the story of the day humanity's primitive technology saved the most advanced ship in the galaxy. "Remember," she would tell them, "the best technology isn't always the most complex. Sometimes the best technology is just what works."